Hello and welcome to another astrology video, actually audio. I want to talk today about Mars, the Mars planet in the natal chart, what it represents in both men and women, and different interpretations. Actually, I plan on doing a separate video to explain a little bit about the different Mars positions through signs. But first of all, I want to start out with a little bit of psychology. You probably may have heard Carl Jung's concept of the animus and the anima. The animus basically represents our internal masculine sides of our personality, while the anima represents the feminine sides of our personality. And in astrology, the animus, namely the masculine sides of our personality, are predominantly shown in the natal chart through the masculine planets and the masculine signs. The masculine planets being especially Mars, but then also Sun and Jupiter. And the masculine signs are, Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, let me think. Sagittarius, and Aquarius, I think. So the fire and the air signs. Right, so the animus, what it represents is the way that we relate to our masculine sides, the way that we express our masculine sides. Both men and women have a masculine side from the psychological point of view, but they express it differently, of course, because of social conditioning. However, nowadays that is in a constant state of change because unlike, let's say, 50 years ago when women were mostly supposed to be housewives and, lovers, and that's pretty much it. Nowadays, women can really go out into the world and make a difference, and therefore they can express their animus or their masculine sides without necessarily looking for a man to express that side of their nature. Because otherwise, if a woman does not express her own masculine side, she tends to project her inner masculine on the men in her life. And that is shown through the Mars placement and Jupiter and Sun. But in this video, I really want to focus on Mars, because Mars is really the most basic, the most raw masculine energy in a natal chart. It really represents things like physical energy, your level of physical energy, the way you express your physical energy, your libido, your level of passion in life, the things that you do find passionate, the things that you do have passion for in life, and represents your assertiveness. It represents basically the warrior archetype, because everybody has a Mars placement in their chart, and so everybody has their own interpretation of what a warrior should be like, and what a man should be like, and what a lover should be like, etc., etc. Everything that Mars represents, basically. So in both charts, both for men and women, again, so it represents all of the things that I mentioned earlier, your libido, your warrior archetype. It also represents, pioneering spirit, your visionary spirit, some example of Martian personality would be, let's say, Ragnar Lothbrok from the Viking series, and the actual Ragnar Lothbrok, because he was a real person. He was like, this very aggressive warrior archetype, but he was also intelligent, and he was a leader. Mars also represents leadership abilities and attitudes towards leadership, and it also represents the pioneering spirit, because Ragnar Lothbrok was, after all, a visionary. He was the one who said, he was like the first one who said, okay, we can go navigate in open water, and we here's what we can use and let's go. And he was motivating people to follow his vision against all of the odds. So what it represents in a man's chart is basically the way that he feels about himself, about as a man, basically. The way that he expresses his basic masculine energy. So it represents, again, yes, the warrior archetype. It represents the way that he asserts himself in the world, his passions. And this also, of course, depends on not just sign placement, but aspects to other planets in the charts, and house positions. So, for example, a man who has Mars in Aries, which is the pure Martian energy, will have a very pure Mars-like energy to his personality, and you can actually feel it. People who have a very strong Mars, they generally have a strong physical presence, they have charisma, they can generally be seen as sexy or just be people who will have that kind of sexual magnetism. So yes, with men who have a strong Mars, they're the kind of men that, well, first of all, the kind of men that women generally find appealing because they really express that kind of raw sensuality and aggressiveness and everything that is typically masculine, basically. These are the typical bad boys, your Marlon Brandos, your James Deans, your rebels without a cause. They're all Martian archetypes, right? So it also represents, of course, his love behavior to some extent, because being linked to libido, it also is linked to love behavior in general. It also represents, again, his leadership ability, his attitude towards leadership. Again, a Mars in Aries, for instance, is the type of person who will not shy from confrontation, because it's a very typical Martian energy. They can be impulsive, they can be aggressive, they definitely know what they want, and they are not shy about going after it. And then, you can have your other Mars placements like Libra, let's say, or Pisces. These may not necessarily come across as typically masculine energies. It doesn't mean that a man who has Mars in Libra or Mars in Pisces cannot look or appear to be masculine. Of course, it depends on the entire chart. But generally, Mars in a more feminine side or in a Venus-ruled sign like Libra is not going to have your typical raw, aggressive Martian energy. He's going to be much more of a pacifist, or with Mars in Libra, for example, his main passion in life could be maintaining harmony in relationships, or it can be art, because Libra is ruled by Venus, and so it's a sign that has to do with art. Just a few examples, right? And then again, with house placements, you could have, let's say, Mars in the first house. Again, similar to Mars in Aries, this is a very powerful placement, because the first house represents your personality, It represents the way that other people see you, what comes out first. It's the side of you that is most obvious to the people around you. And so people with Mars in the first house, whether they are men or women, they really seem to exude the kind of Martian energy, meaning that they will come across as very confident, very brash, bold, outspoken, the types that don't pull their punches, but they can also be very charismatic. They can have an innate kind of leadership ability. People will tend to respect them and listen to them. And then you can have Mars in a house let's say Virgo, the 6th house, which is the house of Virgo. That's where Mars is really focused on Virgo issues, meaning health, nutrition, everything to do with the physical body, areas like medicine, anatomy, pharmaceuticals, like pharmaceutical substances, anything to do with like analytical thinking, and basically practical applications of thinking. Um, so yeah, that's one example. For a woman, for example, the Mars represents her boyfriend. I realize that this is actually kind of a traditionally Vedic approach to see Mars as the boyfriend in a woman's chart, but, well, even in tropical, actually, you can look at Mars to see the kind of man that a woman finds attractive. This is a kind of traditionalist view. And as far as I have noticed, at least from the charts that I've read, it tends to be true. Of course, it depends on not just the sign, but it depends again on aspects and on house placements. But like women who have a strong Mars by placement, they can also manifest the Mars. Well, actually, not just when they have a strong Mars. Women also express their Mars energy. So they don't just project it on the men around them, which is something that I think tends to get ignored by a lot of astrologers. Because really nowadays women are really called upon to express their Martian sides. You know, more than ever, women are being praised for, you know, traditionally masculine behavior. They are praised for being outgoing, for taking on leadership positions, for being assertive, for, you know, pushing themselves forward. All these things can be seen through a woman's Mars placement. And again, it also represents her libido, can represent her general interests in life, your passions, you know, the things that you pursue naturally in life, you know, the things that you think are worth fighting for, the things that you stand up for, everything, all of your long-term goals are basically represented by Mars. And right, so again, different placements of Mars can mean different things. Like, for example, a woman who has Mars in Aries will generally be attracted to the typical bad boys, because Mars in Aries is, you know, again, it's that raw masculine energy. And I've actually known a woman with this placement who said that she definitely goes for the typical, like, rugged male, you know, with hairy chests and, like, facial hair, and who is into cars and bikes and is independent and aggressive and ambitious and all that. And I know that some men will think that, oh, well, all women want that. Well, actually, it depends. You know, some women want that more than others, and some women may not necessarily be attracted to that at all. Because, for example, Mars in Libra can actually prefer the dandy type of man, you know, the kind of man who's kind of a metrosexual, who invests in his physical appearance, who likes to shave, wear the nice perfume, who has an aesthetic sense and can dress himself nicely, and is soft-spoken and educated and cultured, because Libra represents culture, being ruled by Venus and being an air sign. So yeah, these are just a few examples, but I plan on making a separate video in which I will speak about the different Mars placements through signs for both men and women and what they can mean. So stay tuned. And if you like this, please feel free to press the like button and maybe subscribe. Thank you.